Good afternoon. Welcome back to Passionate World Talk Radio Network, a wholly owned subsidiary of Global Media Network, LLC. Educate, enlighten, entertain. And on this episode of Lest We Forget, we are talking about our current administration has a conflicted relationship with the Second Amendment by J.D. Tissell, written 2 days ago. And in it, the conflict basically is the right to bear arms, which arms, and when you're allowed to bear them. Our president has a problem when it comes to the Second Amendment. A large part of its base consists of people who firmly believe in the right to keep and bear arms. But that right, as protected by the Second Amendment, empowers the individual and stands as a challenge to the authority of the state, which is our current president. This can create an awkward situation for the president and his group who don't like being challenged or even criticized. That's why we see our administrative officials argue in favor of self-defense rights one moment while challenging the right to keep and bear arms at another. So what is it with all these mixed messages coming out of Washington, D.C.? In December 2025, our current president sued Washington, D.C. over the city's old, fine gun laws. The nation's capital bans the ownership of many semi-automatic firearms, including the widely owned AR-15. And tens of millions are in private hands nationally, not thousands, millions. Today's action from the Department of Justice's new Second Amendment section underscores our ironclad commitment to protecting the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding Americans, commented the U.S. Attorney General Pamela Bondi. Quote, Washington, D.C.'s ban on some of America's most popular firearms is an unconstitutional infringement on the Second Amendment. Living in our nation's capital should not preclude law-abiding citizens from exercising their fundamental constitutional right to keep and bear arms. That's what you want to hear from this government. Full-throated defense of individual rights and legal action against jurisdictions that violate our liberty. However, several weeks later, the U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C. did an about-face and sang a very different melody. Quote, you bring a gun into the district, you mark my words, you're going to jail. The U.S. Attorney Jeannie Pirro told Fox News on February 2nd, I don't care if you have a license in another district, and I don't care if you're a law-abiding gun owner somewhere else. You bring a gun into this district, count on going to jail, and hope you get your gun back. Sounds like Animal Farm. 4 legs are good, but 2 legs are better. The next day, Perot doubled down on X, commenting in a video post, quote, every responsible gun owner that I know makes sure that they understand the laws, where they're going, and understand whatever registration requirements there might be. You're responsible, you follow the laws, you're not going to have a problem with me. But the point many gun owners correctly make is that rights supersede the law. The law should be obeyed only if it's respectful of natural rights. With its lawsuit against D.C. over the semi-automatic ban, Our current administration already recognized that at least some of the Capitol's gun laws violate self-defense rights. So why was one of its officials now threatening jail time for breaking those laws? In fact, our current administration is already in trouble with gun owners after the shooting by Border Patrol agents of Minneapolis protester Alex Preddy, who was legally carrying a concealed firearm at the time of his death. Federal officials attacked Preddy as well as the right to bear arms. Quote, "You cannot bring a firearm loaded with multiple magazines to any sort of protest that you want." Really? It's that simple. You don't have a right to break the law and incite violence, FBI Director Kesa Patel wrongly insisted. Really? It's not like carrying a gun in the open and parading in front of people's houses saying, "I have the right to display my semi-automatic rifle in front of all of you, and if anybody gives me a trouble, I have the right to defend myself from being criticized by you people." To Perot and the administration, the National Association for Gun Rights snapped back. Bureaucrats act like the 2A does not exist and brag about jailing people for exercising their rights. Excuse me, end of quote. And then again, quote, "Recent events in Minnesota underscore a recurring and deeply troubling theme. Government officials and commenters treated natural rights as privileges," and added the Firearms Policy Coalition, FPC, quote, "As the Declaration of Independence puts it, all men are created equal." But if you see the small print, except for the ones that are in higher positions. Yes, reminds you of kings. Anyway, going back, endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. We believe these rights include the rights to self-defense, freedom of speech, and to protest the government. Well, government doesn't agree. The FPC statement emphasizes, quote, "the rights to self-defense, freedom of speech, and to protest the government," end of quote, underscore the administration's conflicted relationship with guns and the Second Amendment. In a country founded on armed revolution, the right to keep and bear arms is linked with resistance to authorities. Yes, we did not ask King George for the tea that was dumped in the ocean to come back to us. We took it with guns, muskets, swords, tar, pitch hot tar. So, for that matter, is the right to free speech, which can be in the form of pamphlets, articles, and public addresses, put fire in the bellies of the original revolutionaries. But the authority the current crop of protesters demonstrate against is wielded by our current administration and the officials whom they might resist hold office courtesy of the current president. That spirit of criticism and rebellion doesn't sit well with a man who's asserted, quote, "I have the right to do whatever I want as president." More recently, this current president claimed in the context of global relations that he was constrained only by, quote, "my own morality." Who knew? My own mind. He has one. "It's the only thing that can stop me." OMG. The president has surrounded himself with hangers-on who flatter him or otherwise elevate deference to law and the powers that be over consideration of natural rights and of simple popular disagreements with the administration policies. There's not much of an anti-authoritarian streak running through this, or at least through the White House. People who protest in the streets and exercise their right to bear arms challenge officials who believe they can do whatever they want. The guns they own and carry are an implied threat that far more potential constraint exists in the hands of the public than will ever be supplied by one politician's personal morality. In political terms, then, our current administration must keep its base happy by, in part, supporting the individual right to keep and bear arms and work to overrun restrictions on the same. There are certainly some officials sincerely working towards that end. But the right to keep and bear arms, like the right to freedom of speech, makes individuals more powerful relative to the state. It's inherently anti-authoritarian. Our current administration, under our president, who bridles at any hint of restraint on his power, is authoritarian to its core. This administration sends mixed messages about the Second Amendment because it's deeply uncomfortable with the challenge to government posed by individuals exercising their natural right to keep and bear arms. Something for you to think about. Please go over to our website, passionateworldtalkradio.com/blog, read the summary, listen to tonight's podcast, and then click on the link that can take you where you can read the remainder or the rest of the story and form your own opinions about our current president and the mixed messages being sent about the Second Amendment. Send all your comments and or opinions to pwrnetworkllc@gmail.com. Thank you very much and have an awesome weekend.